Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to this week's edition of This Racing Life, which comes from Musselburgh ahead of the big Cheltenham Trials Weekend. We'll be talking to the Grand National winning trainer and recently honoured Lucinda Russell OBE. We'll also be going to see Nick Alexander and his daughter Lucy about their season, and visiting James Ewart and his wife Briony. First though, here at Musselburgh, Ken McGarity gave us more details about the course's big weekend fixture. Ken, I'm sure as Scotland's ROA representative you'll approve of the changes being made to this big two-day fixture.
Yes, Gordon. I mean, up to 2 years ago then it was a one-day fixture, and it was well attended, but over the last 2 years, with the introduction in particular of the Edinburgh National and one or two other handicap races, it's perhaps brought more of the horses that are trained up in Scotland and the north into the fixture, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, Saturday's more about chasing.
It is, yes. I mean, we've got a new veterans chase as well, over 2 miles 6 furlongs, which hopefully will get a good field. And we've got the main Edinburgh National, which was won thankfully by Ray Green's horse, Full Jack, last year, trained by Sandy Thompson, and maybe there'll be another Scottish winner this year, you never know. And quality hurdling as well, including of course on the Sunday? Well, on the Sunday we've got the Triumph Hurdle Trial, we've got the Supreme Trial, and we've got the Albert Bartlett Trial, and then the Pertemps trial after that, Pertemps Hurdle after that, which 2 years ago I nearly won, with Arthur's Secret beaten by a short head by El Bandit from Mr Nichols' yard. You're also a director here at Musselburgh, so you'll no doubt be keen to have an entry or two. I will certainly have my horse that ran at Kelso the other day, Blue Cascade, entered in 2 or 3 of the chases. And Arthur's Secret that I mentioned before, perhaps for the Pertemps Network Hurdle, and Ballynanty that won here on the 7th of January. He's gone up a little bit in the ratings, maybe not enough to get into the Pertemps race, but we'll enter him anyway. It's nice to cheer over a Scottish winner. Kelpie Smith from Lucinda Russell's yard also won last year, partly owned by the current temporary chairman of the BHA, Athol Duncan, so he'll presumably be here on that day. We wish you well, Ken. Okay, thanks, Gordon.
One of the recent highlights of Scottish racing was one for Arthur's Grand National triumph, a win which helped trainer Lucinda Russell be made an OBE in the recent Queen's Honours list. I paid her a visit to see if anything has changed. Well, first of all, Lucinda, congratulations on the honour, the OBE. Well done.
I couldn't believe it. It's not anything that I'd ever thought would happen to me, and it's just really good because it's for horse racing and Scottish racing, and obviously I think the Grand National probably had a bit to do with it as well, but it's just a great honour for everyone up here. It's quite funny, it was quite emotional for me because it was the first time that I've actually been honoured, and I know, you know, I'm standing in front of the cameras and always doing the talk and leading the team forward, but actually it was quite nice to actually have an honour for myself.
Have you actually gone to pick it up yet?
Oh yeah, I did. I went down and the Queen presented it to me. It was a fantastic ceremony. Very proud. Took my mother and my aunt and my Scoo obviously, and we had a great time. It was really good. The whole day was super. I bet he banter between you and Scoo as well, because he's only got an MBE. I know, and I have to say I think riding that many winners is much more noble than what I do. But it's just great, and it's fantastic for us both to have it. What's the reaction been like around about the yard and when you've been going racing? I'm not sure. I'd have to say I don't think it's changed very much. So I think it's been nice, but it's nice to get horse racing into the wider public as well, not just in our own little bubble. You know, it's nice to have it throughout the country. It's the team that does all the hard work. It's not just the stable staff. It's not just the people that work here. It's all the owners, the people that have invested time and money into our yard. It's been a great thing. And we've seen everyone in action this morning. I mean, it's been a busy place on the gallops over the schooling obstacles. Do you know what I'm so proud of is that the guys here, you know, this morning the work that we do at the farm here is always very, some horses go one place and other horses, some school, some go galloping, some are just trotting, and everyone knows what they're doing. It's great that everyone has responsibility for themselves and for their own horses, and I think that's why we have people that stay for so long, is that, you know, people have responsibility for their own, for the way things are going each day and can drive it forward themselves. And we've seen the schooling obstacles and the gallops, of course. You've got a water treadmill with all the mod cons. Yeah, it's very important for us to keep on improving the facilities. We've got some of the best gallops that we think in the country that have trained a lot of winners, but it's nice to have the extras around the edges, and the water treadmill's been a great help this year. I think you know, we've been winning races with horses that were struggling to win with in previous seasons, and I think that's been one of the reasons. And looking forward, of course, it gets busy up in Scotland at this time of year, building towards all the big meetings, and the Edinburgh Cheltenham Trials Day. I mean, that attracts some decent horses. Yeah, there's always been a focus on Cheltenham and Aintree, and I think it's really exciting now that Scottish Racing is promoting their own finals days and Scottish Trials days. Musselburgh has been really to the forefront of leading things forward, and their Trials days are very exciting. We've got some horses that are aiming for it, that we're winding up for that, as well as for Cheltenham and for Aintree. Rylex
is a horse that's created a bit of a stir in the yard. I remember when he first came to you, Lucinda, you said he was going to be wearing a hood for cosmetic purposes, and there's a reason for that.
Well, he's only got one ear, so we did buy him with one ear. It hasn't happened with us, but to start with, we were worried that the bridle might slip off, so we did ride him out with a hood. But Stephen Mulqueen's been riding him a lot at home, and he took the hood off, dispensed with that, and he's just been going from strength to strength. He was a very tricky horse to start with. I think he was a bit anxious and a bit worried about things, and it really helped that Stephen could ride him every day at home and then also ride him in his races. It's one of our advantages of having the boys working here.
And there's conflicting reports as to how he lost the ear in Ireland, I think?
That's right, he lost his ear. I think he got his head caught in a cattle feeder and got the ear sort of was half off, and the vet then trimmed it off properly. But it doesn't affect him, and he's a very, very sweet horse. He's certainly taken to his media sensation. He was tweeted, he was the most popular thing on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Lucinda Russell Racing. It was amazing. He got a lot of hits.
In all your experience in various types of your horse dealing, if you like, in the eventing world as well, have you ever come across such a thing?
No, I haven't. I mean, we've had horses with, that are blind in one eye or have had an eye taken out, but the good thing about the ear is it is only cosmetic, so I don't think it doesn't affect his hearing. He can still hear you when you call him.
Didn't stop him winning really well at Carlisle.
I know, that's the important thing. He is a horse that loves, I think now that we've got him back onto soft ground, taking the hood off, it's really helped, and if we can get a bit more soft ground, he'll be running again very soon. And
I got to mention Kelpie's Myth, because I mean, a connection with Jerry McGladry, and he's an owner. I know he loves having runners at Musselburgh, so that's where he wants to run his horses, he says.
Yeah, we're so lucky in Scotland. They really look after their owners very well at the Scottish racecourses, and Musselburgh's right up there with that. Give them a free lunch and they just look after them. The whole track is run so well. So Jerry said to me at the start of the season, I want to have lots of runners at Musselburgh, and indeed we've run many of his horses. He's bought horses specifically to run there, and Kelpie's Myth has won there for him, so we're hoping that he'll do the same again. He probably is better over 2-3 round Musselburgh as opposed to the 2 miles, but we'll see. And he's a horse that will be aiming at one of the trials days. In the Irish point-to-point field, Shark Cannon had him, and he won a 5-year-old point-to-point. He's very much our type of horse. He's a proper long-distance, stamina-laden, staying chase type. I'm not sure that he's got the most speed in the world, but he's definitely one of our big strong types that hopefully will be winning plenty of staying chases and a national along the way. What national, I'm not sure. And overall, looking to the future, Lucinda, I mean, you've won a Grand National, nice to win another one. Other aims that you'd like to achieve in the yard? More Cheltenham Festival winners, for example? Yes, I think, it's very important for us to do well at Aintree, and it's a track that I've always loved, always had a soft spot for. Cheltenham is a big part of it. We won with Brindisi Breeze, and I'd like to think that we could win another listed race there sometime in the near future. Scotland could have another live contender in this year's Grand National. That's why we've come to the Kynaston yard of trainer Nick Alexander to find out more about the Trevor Hemmings-owned Lakeview Lad. Nick, you're in tremendous form at the moment. It must be one of your best ever seasons.
Yeah, in terms of prize money, it's the best season we've had, and I'm delighted the horses are running well, and I hope they'll continue to do so.
And this fantastic seam of form you've hit, can you put your finger on why the horses are on the crest of a wave?
Not really, they're fit and they're well, and we often have good form at this time of year, so yeah, I'm delighted with it. Let's hope it can continue right through the spring, which it normally does. We just tend to be a bit slow in the autumn because we let the horses take their time to come to themselves.
You could have another live Scottish contender for the Grand National on your hands in Lakeview Lad.
Yeah, I'm sure he's very much on Mr. Hemmings' shortlist for the race, and I'll just, I will prepare him for the race, and hopefully we'll get there in one piece. He's been in great form, hasn't he, with the win at Newcastle and then at Wetherby over Christmas? Yeah, he's won 2 very nice handicaps from his 2 starts. Won both of them well. He would improve for them. There should be more to come from him, but the handicapper has also had his say as well. So he has gone up a lot. He's gone up £16 for the 2 wins. So that's a big step up now. And he'll always be remembered as your first graded winner, and I think one of your highest rated winner ever, I think, as well. Yep, he's a first graded winner, and he's the first. Yeah, he's rated 155 now, which is the higher rated horses I've ever had.
And of course Mr Hemmings has got this love affair with the Grand National. I take it that is the long-term plan?
I would think so, yeah, he's definitely on their shortlist, and I'm delighted to do what I can to help get him there.
What sort of horses is he to look after at home? What sort of character is he?
Like a lot of good horses, he's very straightforward to train. He's very enthusiastic about his work. He eats all the time. He's touchwood. He's sound. He's a lovely horse.
Any race in mind for Lakeview Lad between now and Aintree?
There's a lovely conditions chase at Kelso on the first weekend in March, so it's a valuable prize. It would be a great race to run in, so I'd love him to run in that if we can get there in one piece.
And Henry Brooke seems to get on well with him?
Henry struck up a good partnership with him, yeah. They've got on very well from the start, and they've got a 100% record together so far, so hope they can keep it that way.
Looking around, some tremendous facilities here, Nick. You got the relatively new gallop, and I mean, you know, everything that you could wish for, and all for your own personal use.
Yeah, we're very spoilt. I was lucky. I put in 2 new gallops in the summer of 2017, and they certainly help. We've got a really good training facility now, as everything I could possibly wish for. So delighted with that.
One of the nicer young horses I've seen about the place and actually saw winning at Kelso is Elvis Mayo. I know he's a horse that you've taken time to find the key to, but clearly got bags of scope and potential. Yes,
I've always thought he had a lot of ability. I think I did quite well to manage not to win a bumper with him last year, really. Rather poor placing, but he should be able to progress now that we've found the key to him. He won very, very well at Kelso last time, and with a bit of luck he'll go back there maybe in the next couple of weeks.
And another horse that's been winning for you, Calavini. I mean, a horse that won at Carlisle, followed up at Kelso, and now you know he stays. I think I said to you, he's opened up plenty of options for himself.
Yeah, he's won his last 2, and he looks quite progressive. I think again, he was higher rated over hurdles, and it's taken a while for us to find the key over fences, but we seem to have done that.
On a bitterly cold morning, we've come south from Musselburgh to Langham. That's where James and Briony Ewart's setup is situated. The yards had a really good season already, thanks to the exploits of horses such as Arista Duplessis and Ascot de Bruyere. James, how's the season been going so far?
I think we'd have preferred to have had more runners. I think we've had about 56, 57 runners, that's all so far this season. But we've had 11 winners over the jumps, and we've had a couple of winners on the flat, and it's kept us going. The balance is all about the young ones coming through, lots of bumper horses. I think we started the season with, you know, half a dozen 2-year-olds, 10 3-year-olds, probably at least half a dozen 4-year-olds. So the majority of the yard are younger horses.
One of the flag bearers of the yard has been Arista Duplessis, and we've seen him this morning, and he looks in fantastic shape.
Oh, he's in rude health, all right. He seems well. He's been a fantastic horse to have and train.
David McLeod's looked after him for a long time. I mean, he loves him to bits.
He does. Davey loves him, and you know, he's a very difficult horse to ride at home. He's on and off the bridle. He's a bit free and scatty at times, and you know, Dave's no spring chicken, but he's done a great job with him, and you know, that's what you need. You need these rapports between the guys that look after the horses and the horses to get the best out of them.
He's a horse that has had issues, admittedly, down through the years.
Since he's been here, he's had 3 chips removed from various joints, both fetlocks, I think. He's had an operation on his hock, half a vertebrae removed from his back. He's had a cauterizing of the soft palate. He's also had a trapped epiglottis. And those are some of the more major things he's had. But basically, he's been a difficult horse to train, but a very rewarding horse to train.
Going back in the day, I mean, he was a top-notch hurdler. I seem to remember he had a champion hurdle entry.
Yeah, I mean, we were in the bubble of how far can we go. Sadly, you're always in the bubble when you're winning lots of races with a horse, especially consecutively, and you never know until you reach your glass ceiling. But he's been a very, very consistent operator, and like I say, very few horses win more than 10 races, and very few horses win more than £100,000 in prize money. And
another horse that we love to bits here is Ascot de Bruyere, and he's another horse that's in rude health at the moment. We've seen him, and in winning form as well.
Yeah, he started off the season in the Borders National. He was ridden by Lucy Alexander that day. He ran a cracking race. That was his comeback race. Possibly needed it a little bit. It's a big ask to stay these marathon trips for your first time coming back, but I thought he jumped particularly well. Then next time out we went to Newcastle and he won well, to be honest. He jumped particularly well. Newcastle is an ideal track for him because there's a flat galloping track and big stiff fences, so the idea, Ayr for instance, would be another good track for him. He has to have a flat galloping track and he has to have a decent size obstacle.
Now those are two horses that we know and love well, but plenty younger horses bubbling under. And I know you want to chuck one in. I mean, for example, 4-3, who ran just the other day.
Yeah, 4-3 is a horse that's relatively lowly rated on the flat, but on his run at Newcastle looks to have a very promising future over hurdles. It was, I think, a pretty competitive novice hurdle at Newcastle last time, and he finished second. Some people would argue that he was a little unlucky to finish second. The Hemmings horse, mowed us down at the very last minute, but it was a very good start, and I'd imagine, given if we can keep him in that vein of form, that he'll be winning in the not too distant future.
And speaking of Newcastle, a horse that made his debut at Newcastle, Neatguard, in fact, it was such a good run, he was only beating a neck.
Yeah, it was a frustrating run, Gordon, because Brian took him up the inside. I think Craig Nicholl shut the door on us. We had to then go round, then the gaps didn't open, and then Brian threaded the eye of a needle, and we've gone down by a neck going forward. I think he's hopefully a winner waiting to happen.
This was in a bumper, of course.
Absolutely, I think it's a winner waiting to happen. Nice young horse. The sort of horse that hopefully will be quite a smart novice hurdler next season, please God.
One horse that's already won a hurdle for you, Attila de Sevilla, that was a maiden hurdle at Sedgefield, also won a bumper. I think I read you saying somewhere that he was a horse that could be a serious novice chaser next year. Yeah,
no, you're spot on, Gordon. I think that Attila is a very rare commodity. He won his bumper at Doncaster, and I think it was a very hot bumper. He then won first time out with Brian at Sedgefield. We're going to look after him and mind him. He's a very big horse, he jumps very well. He'll only probably get a couple more runs this season. Possible target if the ground changes in our favour, because at the moment the ground everywhere is a little bit on the quick side. The Premier Hurdle, possibly.
Finally, on the individual horses, Shamon's been in tremendous form. A couple of wins. He's another horse that's enjoyed a good season already.
Yeah, Chamont's 1-2 from 2. Handicappers put him up again in the box. I hate it when they do that, but that's the way it goes. He's now off a mark of 1-3-4. He started the season off 1-1-7. I think that hopefully he's a much better chaser than he is a hurdler, and I'd like to imagine that he could go forward again. Realistically, in a novice handicap, wherever you went on a galloping track, on a flat galloping track with some cut in the ground, I think you'd have a chance.
I always like to follow your horses when the ground starts to get deeper, but I mean that hasn't been the case this year. Not so much following your horses, but the fact that the ground's been against not just you but a lot of stables, James.
I think it's an issue that needs revisited by the Jockey Club. I think that racecourses have an obligation to produce consistent ground, and it should be at the point of entry, not less really than the slow side of good to soft in places. That's my opinion. That gives them time to irrigate artificially after, or for it to dry up. What we shouldn't be doing is waiting to the last minute declarations and then watering the last moment. Ground is the single largest factor in injuries and consistency of ground. So if the ground is consistently on the slower side, the injury level, fatality level is going to be, or percentage is going to be smaller. The stats prove this scientifically, and let's be honest, let's follow the stats. I mean, if the stats say that you're less likely to get injured as a human or a jockey falling off or as a horse on softer ground, then that's where we need to be.
The all-weather Ben behind us, it's been in use now for a season or two, it's still standing, and you know, the hammer.
It's absolutely great for us because it's one thing we don't have to worry about. We harrow it and we prepare it for each race day, but we don't actually have to worry about the ground or moving rails on it at all. It's just where we go onto it and come off it that we manage. So for us as ground staff, it's been brilliant.
The actual programme for the Cheltenham Trials Weekend has been tweaked a wee bit. Tell us more.
It's been tweaked a little bit. We've got 4 chases on the Saturday, an exciting new veterans chase, a 0 to 125 with a 2 mile 6 start, which we don't actually use very often, which is just down there in front of the stands, which is a similar place to where the 4 mile Edinburgh National starts, which was won last year by Full Jack, who was very exciting, a local winner, locally trained and locally owned, very locally owned in fact.
It's a meeting as well. It does produce horses that tend to go and run well at the festivals at Cheltenham and indeed at Aintree.
Yeah, that's very true, and I mean in the past we've often offered good ground where other courses have been heavy, but I mean this year we're you know, offering really good prize money, so we'd hope that the horses will still come, and we've conserved our ground and managed our ground, so we've got some lovely fresh ground for them coming. Just
finally, to a more sort of personal note, Scotswell, the old stable legend down at your yard's been retired. I mean, what a horse. How do you replace a horse like Scotswell?
Well, I think he's irreplaceable, in fact. I mean, he's homebred. I'm really, really fond of him. He's a one-off, you know, the comment over his high head carriage and how can he jump like that. And he only did things one way. He went from the front as fast as he could, and often he broke everybody else's hearts, won 10 races for us, absolutely fantastic. And actually yesterday he was off show jumping with our head girl Marjorie Rennick.
His new career?
It's part of his new career, yes.
Yeah. And I mean, so unlucky but so brave to finish second in 2 Borders Nationals at Kelso.
Yeah, I mean the Borders National was one that we really wanted to win. We won the North Yorkshire National, which was a great thrill with James Ewart,
yes, I remember.
Who now rides in France, and that was a great thrill for us. And he always was an out-and-out stayer. And in fact, the Edinburgh National here, if we'd been a bit younger and I could run horses here, would have been the typical sort of race he would have absolutely loved.
But he's going out in one piece on his own terms, or his trainer's terms anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the temptation, he's really well and he's sound, is to carry on, but God, you'd feel awful if he had to go out because he was injured or something. As it is, he's wandering around the yard, he'll always have a stable on the yard, and we'll love him dearly until the day he goes.
Well, back here at Kynaston, we can find out more about the evergreen teenager Jet Master, who seems as good as ever at the ripe old age of 13.
Yeah, he's been a wonderful horse for his owners, Harry Turkin and Simon Dunning, who are great supporters of the yard, and it's good that he's won 2 mile hurdles, 3 mile chases. He ran in the Edinburgh National. He won a 3 mile hurdle the other day, and he'll be back, hopefully, fingers crossed, at Musselburgh in February to run back over fences.
He celebrated his 30th birthday in style, didn't he?
Yeah, that was his most valuable win of his career, which was pretty remarkable. He was given a very canny ride by Lucy, which was great.
Is he a horse that you've got a special memory on one particular race, or do you just enjoy him while he's around? And
well, yeah, he won. We've sponsored a race in memory of my father at Kelso, and he was the first horse that I won that with. I've won it again since, but that was a particularly special day because I've been trying to win it for about 20 years.
He quoted as calling him honest and brave, and well, I think he's all of that, isn't he?
Yep, he'd run through a brick wall for you. I mean, he just does his work every day with enthusiasm, and I don't think I've ever known a day when he hasn't been out there working and appeared to be happy doing it, which is wonderful.
As we've seen in the gallops, he's so sprightly. I mean, he doesn't look his age.
Yeah, he looked like a 3-year-old this morning, just trotting back down the gallop, jogging away.
he seems to love his work, and as long as he loves his work and seems to be loving his racing, we'll keep him going.
Lucy gets on really well with him, Nick. Is he a horse that does take a bit of knowing? I mean, she's won 7 races on him.
He's a horse who needs ridden with restraint, and someone needs to know the pace of a race and when to produce him. You get very keen if he is in amongst horses too early in the race, so he needs to sit out the back and be produced. She's brilliant at that.
And that was, you know, ridden to perfection to those sort of very instructions, if there were instructions, the way that he won at Musselburgh.
Yeah, it was just sit behind them and stalk them and see how many you can come past up the home straight. That's the sort of general instruction for every time he runs, but it can be a bit, in a big field you can get a bit further behind, which isn't as good. Yeah, that's why a small field suits very well for riding with those tactics. With the bigger field you can't necessarily use those tactics.
Lucy, Jet Master, you and him, a match made in heaven.
Yeah, he seemed to keep coming back for more anyway.
He must have been a big part of your life for a lot of years now.
Yeah, I can't think how long we've had him, but yeah, he's been so consistent.
Yeah. What's he like, first of all, to ride on the gallops?
Normally, quite often he'll go in front. He's quite keen. So normally he's at the front or he's at the back, and nowadays he's fine really. He's just a few people that ride him, and he's a good ride really. He's straightforward enough.
In a race though, you got on well with him, and you need to sort of bring him there in his own time. He didn't want to be there too soon, does he?
No, yeah. When we first got him, he was front running and he was quite free. And he went novice chasing and he fell a couple of times, and he was just too free. Back then he was running over 2 miles, and we just thought we've got to change something, and we started dropping him right out. And early on he really was, and you had to really be a bit detached just to give yourself a bit of leeway at the beginning. But just as he's got older, he's settled. He's much easier to settle now.
And on New Year's Day at Musselburgh, he won the most valuable race he's ever won.
Yeah, I didn't think Musselburgh's quite a hard track to ride that sort of race round, because normally they come off the front, but with it being a small field, at least it gave us half a chance. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really think he'd win turning in, but he just kept galloping, and he's very, very genuine. He just seemed to fly home, didn't he? He got him going, and he's one going away. Yeah, he has, exactly, yeah. And he seems to see out 3 miles well now. And he certainly shows no signs of losing any of his dash, does he? I mean, look at him. I know, yeah, he knows it's lunchtime, but you wouldn't know he's 13 from the way he goes about it. And 9 wins in his career, and you've won 7 times on him. Yeah, he's been a great horse for me and for the yards. So, yeah, I don't know how long he can keep it going, but yeah, like you say, he's not shown any signs of stopping yet. He's been part of a fairly decent season for you, hasn't he? Yeah, I mean, compared to the last few years, it's been really good, and I've had a nice clean run so far, touch wood. And attached to your dad's yard this morning, to see all the nice facilities and all the young horses coming through, I mean, it's all about keeping the conveyor belt going. Yeah, it's exciting, and yeah, you're always on the lookout for something a bit better, and no, we've got a nice bunch at the minute, so yeah, try and stay in one piece and stay lucky. We wish you well for the rest of the season. I think you better get Jet Master his lunch, and I look forward to seeing the two of you in the winners' enclosure again soon. Back in Langham, I'm with Briony Ewart, and we've got one of the more smaller versions of the equine variety around, Briony, a fell pony. Tell us more about her.
The Ewarts have been breeding the fell ponies now for 60 years. I think it was James's father was bought one by his grandfather at Appleby Fair, because the fells are all sort of originate from Cumbria area, and he's just been really keen to keep the line going, and they've had, I think, grandmother won on this one's grandmother at the Highland Show, so it's a bit of a sort of joke to start with, but now we're thinking it might be a possibility, because the sister went to Langham and sort of cleaned up there at the show, so they seem to just be a real good, tough, versatile breed.
And we've seen you out in the gallops giving Arista Duplessis a run for his money.
Yeah. Well, when we first started training, we had the fells leading all the young horses. We only had young horses to start with, so we had nothing to sort of lead them. So again, this one's mother would lead the sort of horses all around the farm and over the jumps and things. So yeah, they're actually great, because you can pony them about, and if someone drops something, you can pick it up, you can do the gates, and they just stop the traffic and things. Yeah, they're absolutely brilliant, yeah, actually.
And what do the thoroughbred jumpers make of them?
They're actually giving the jumpers a run for the money. She's actually jumping a bit better than some of his, which he's worried about, but no, they're pretty versatile. They'll do anything you want.
Well, listen, good luck at the Highland Show in the summer. I know that's the big aim.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's it from Scotland, and don't forget, if you can't come to Musselburgh's Cheltenham Trials Weekend, every single race is live on Racing TV. Thanks for watching.